This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Digital agriculture is transforming farm management thanks to the work of Ohio State's College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences on-farm research program called eFields. Find out how on this Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. Plus, summer brings dangerous working conditions for farmers. Learn some very helpful tips from Ohio's Bureau of Workers' Compensation when it comes to battling heat stress. After this.
Hi, I'm Brian Baldridge, Director of the Ohio Department of Agriculture and 7th Generation Farmer. H2 Ohio enrollment is open in the Western Lake Erie Basin through August 15th. Join the thousands of farmers who are already enrolled and receive incentives for implementing best management practices on your farm that improve water quality. Together, we can make a lasting difference. Contact your local soil and water office to enroll or visit h2.ohio.gov for more information.
No matter what generation farmer you are, the next one is always the most important. The Ohio Soybean Council is focused on the future of your operation. It's not just a checkoff contribution. It's an investment you can count on for your farm, your bottom line, and your future. Ohio Soybean Council. Invested in your future.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Digital agriculture is transforming farm management thanks to the work of Ohio State's College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences on-farm research program called eFields. There's an article about this work at Ohio State in the latest Our Ohio magazine. And to talk more about it here on the podcast, Elizabeth Hawkins, an agronomic systems field specialist at the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences. Elizabeth, great to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ty. I'm so excited to join today and talk about the eFields program. It's one of my favorite topics.
Well, obviously, you are the face and the voice of eFields in this new Our Ohio magazine. So tell us all about the program.
Yeah, so eFields came about, now this is our 9th season. And really what we wanted to create was a community of learning that gave farmers the opportunity to come to Ohio State with the questions they have that matter to them at the farm level and leverage us as research experts to use our tools in our tool belt to help answer those questions and create innovation and improvement at the farm level in Ohio. And so we've been doing that now for 9 seasons through field scale on-farm research.
9 seasons can get you a lot of great data when you have that type of set that goes over almost a decade of growing seasons across Ohio. I mentioned at the top the term digital agriculture. What would you define that as?
That's a great question. We hear it thrown around a lot. To me, digital ag is a term that describes a farming system that's going to bring together digital technologies that we've had around for a while, like yield monitoring, and combine it with new technologies like drones and some of these sensors we hear talking about. Combine that technology with data to begin answering questions that drive and improve the productivity and the profitability at our farms. It's like precision ag, but bigger and more powerful. I think we're in agriculture starting to see a point where the data analytics is catching up with our equipment capabilities. And I think that's really exciting for farmers. We're going to have the ability to take data that they're generating on their farm and make those improvements in a much more systematic and hopefully better way than what we've been doing in the past.
This eFields research being done by farmers all over the state, a lot of different types of research as well. What types of studies are being conducted with the farmers that partner up with eFields?
Oh gosh, Ty, how long do you have? The types of trials that we've done over the years have been really diverse, and I think that's really exciting. That's what's really exciting about the program. Looking at our top trials, I think the most participated in have been things like seeding rate. Seems really basic, but really informative when we start talking about things like variable rate seeding. Understanding across all your acres what that optimum looks like, both from an agronomic perspective and an economic perspective, can really improve how you're making those prescriptions. Biologicals has exploded over the last few seasons. The question everyone's asking is, do these things work? And we're trying to help get those answers. The really cool thing about eFields, though, is that we try to stay farmer driven. So really, any question that matters to a farmer in Ohio matters to us. So we really encourage guys, even if you don't see it in the report, I say all the time, if you see it in the report, we can help you replicate it on your farm. If you don't see it in the report, we can help you replicate it on your farm. I think the thing that's really strong about eFields is we're taking what we know about how to conduct research and we can apply that to any question at the farm level. And then we can help you collect data and analyze that data to get those meaningful answers to drive decisions.
How challenging is it to find farmers? They're not ones for change. There are some farmers that are open to ideas, but some farmers are just staunch in their ways. So, how did farmers adapt to some of the projects conducted on their farms through eFields?
Yeah, it's all over the board. We know that conducting on-farm research is going to take a change in mindset. A lot of times we were talking before we got started about how it's about to rain. And right now it's go time in the field. You don't want to be slowed down by needing to go through the steps of conducting a trial. But if you change the way you think about it, one of our partner farms loves to say that he thinks about the data that he's collecting through eFields as a second crop that he's harvesting off of his fields. And when you start to think about it that way, the time that you're spending to get high quality data to drive those decisions feels a lot more worth the effort. And so for us, the biggest benefit to partnering with a program like eFields is that we can help take some of the hard work and time consuming parts off of your plate altogether. This time of year, I love if you come to me with a question, I can do the background work, think through what some of those treatments might look like. We can have a couple conversations, and next thing you know, you've got a picture on your phone that you can plant through the field. And I know I'm always excited to get out of the office and enjoy some time in the sun in the field. And a lot of my county educator colleagues feel the same way. So we love to get out in the office and have that opportunity to be an extra set of hands in the field, whether you're planting, scouting a trial, or harvesting. So take advantage of us. That's what we're here for.
You mentioned treatments and seeding rates, but what are some other notable changes that farmers have made because of the results you found through the eFields program?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest things we've learned when we look at something like soybean seeding rate is Laura Lindsay's been telling us for years that we can safely reduce our seeding rate. Sometimes you don't believe it till you see it on your farm. And we've seen some farmers who have really started to embrace that change. It's a big opportunity in terms of profitability. If you can drop that seeding rate, all of a sudden the number of bags you're ordering goes down and your income goes up. So that's an exciting one. Another area where we've really had some positive changes is looking at technologies, especially things like planter technologies. Really being able to work out those kinks, understand how those technologies work and how you can use them to your advantage. Say variable rate seeding or even something like downforce. You become a lot better by practicing and seeing what the range looks like over a trial and how that impacts your productivity to be able to make those decisions in the future. Um, I think we recently did an impact survey where we saw that nearly half of farmers who are using eFields have already made some sort of change on their farm. So I don't know that we have great data on what all of those are exactly, but we know it's meaningful and we know that this data helps make an impact.
How about, some farmers make changes to save money. Some farmers make changes to make money. There's an agronomic impact and an economic impact. As far as these changes go, based on what you're seeing, is it one or the other or both?
I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, you want to find that win-win where you see a product or a practice that increases yield. But when we're talking about research, especially in ag, it's hard to find those silver bullets that do amazing things. You think about those major advancements in agriculture science, and not everybody's going to find a nitrogen to be able to double yields over a couple decades. But when we talk about economics, I think that's where the real opportunity is. Some people jokingly say eFields is the research program that finds out that nothing increases yield, but I think that's important too. Being able to look at a product or a practice and know whether or not it's worth, if it has the ROI behind it, can be really important, especially when we talk about tough scenarios like the drought we experienced in 2024 and those lower commodity prices that we see on a cyclical schedule in agriculture. When we know what we can pull back on or what products don't give us the yield bump that we need to overcome the cost, making those decisions to pull back, I think, is probably more valuable sometimes than knowing what increases yield by a bushel or two.
when new technologies that can really make a difference come into the scene, there's a little bit of trepidation at first, right? I remember back 30 years ago, GPS, farmers had a hard time really thinking about adapting to that, and tractors that drive themselves. Now we have AI. How might AI play a role in eFields in the future?
I think this is a really exciting area, but a little scary at the same time. Um, when you take a lot of data and you rely on the numbers that you get back out of that data without a human taking a critical look as to does that really make sense, you can run the risk of making some big decisions that are based on analysis that maybe didn't make sense. So for us in the conversations now, we want to find out how we can make sure that some of these AI tools that farmers are going to see are based on sound data. And we think eFields is a great starting place for making sure that that data that's going into these software programs is going to be sound for giving you good answers. So that's what we're looking at now. From my perspective, I could spend all of my time crunching data. I was doing that this morning, but it takes me a long time. So I'm very excited about being able to speed up that process and get answers instead of just playing in Excel all day.
You mentioned that eFields is hard to believe, but close to its 10th season. I'm sure you have 10 more seasons of planning in the works for the future. Are you looking for more farmers to partner up with eFields as the program grows?
We are always. Again, we're trying to build this community, and it really works its best when we've got a lot of folks at the university, but also a lot of farmers who are bringing questions to help focus our efforts on what matter to you. So if you're a little bit of a nerd like I am, or even if you're not, this is a great opportunity to get us to hone in on your questions and get some answers. So getting in touch with us is really easy. You can reach out to me personally, or you can stop into your local extension office and say hey to your ag educator and tell them you're interested in eFields, and we can start that conversation about what kinds of things would you like to try. I would warn you, it's addictive. Once you do your first trial, you're in for the long haul. We've got guys that have been in for every season, and they're always, "Hey, can we try this year?" And I'm excited to see how those questions evolve over time. So,
Is there a website? Is there an easier place for people to maybe not sign up for the program, but to get the data and kind of what you're figuring out through the program?
yeah, so you can check out our website. It's efields.osu.edu. There you can see all of our past reports. If you don't want to flip through all the pages, there's a link on there to a database where you can look at trial summaries by topic or county, and then some information. You can see what our protocols look like. You could spend several hours digging into the information there if you're too nervous to reach out to us yet. So you can dip your toe in the online part first.
Elizabeth Hawkins, self-proclaimed ag nerd, joining us from the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences. She's really the agronomic systems field specialist there at the college and heading up the eFields program. Great information, and thank you so much for taking time to share it with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really enjoy, again, ag nerd, love talking about the data and the opportunities that we see in the future with it.
At Ag Credit, we believe our members' success leads to our success. That's why we have shared our profits with our borrowers for the past 38 consecutive years, putting our profits back in their pockets. As a farmer-owned cooperative, let us show you the value in the cooperative difference. To apply online or find the location nearest you, visit us at agcredit.net. Ag Credit, committed to agriculture, committed to you.
As the nation's #1 insurer of farms and farm families, Nationwide has long been a reliable resource for rural America. And while the current surge of data, technology, and globalization promises incredible growth potential, each new opportunity is shadowed by rising threats like security breaches, GMO contamination, and supply chain failures. This business is about adapting. It demands a protector just as forward-minded. It demands Nationwide.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. Thanks for watching, listening, wherever you might be. I'm Ty Higgins. Each summer, farmers and their employees work through days of extreme heat and humidity, starting as early as June and continuing all the way through to September. And while certainly we need to think about protecting our livestock during these hot days, it's also important to be conscious of how we protect ourselves during these stressful weather conditions. Shane Mouget joins us. He is a Field Safety Services industrial hygienist with Ohio's Bureau of Workers' Compensation. Shane, first time on the podcast. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, how serious is heat stress as a risk factor for injury or illness to employees working in agriculture?
Ty, it's a very serious risk factor for injury. When we talk about heat stress, it's just simply the body's inability to get rid of heat. So, very serious hazard, especially for those of us working in the ag industry. Uh, you got anywhere from 20 to 35 times the risk of heat-related fatality in this industry compared to other occupations. I looked at some data from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. 40 fatalities each year in the ag industry. Probably a little underreported because they're excluding farms with fewer than 11 employees. So very serious. As temperatures increase, accidents on the job do the same. People grow tired, weak, fatigued. They get disoriented, become uncoordinated. Heat stress impairs our cognitive function. We can lose concentration. Our reaction times are affected negatively, and this can lead to serious injuries and even fatalities. So yeah, clearly heat stress is a very serious risk factor to injury to Ohio's farmers and those employees working on the farm.
And you're a farmer yourself. You got 70 head of beef cattle there in southern Ohio. Let's kind of break down what we're talking about when we talk about the terms heat stress and heat related injuries. What do we mean by those terms?
All right, let's start with the worst first. We'll work our way down in severity. So heat stroke is going to be your worst case scenario. Can result in coma or death. Medical emergency situation here, life threatening. Body, it loses its ability to regulate temperature. It's either due to a failure of the central nervous system, which is going to regulate sweat control, or its normal sweat regulating mechanism may simply just get overwhelmed. So kind of signs and symptoms that we're looking at or we're wanting to know, high body temperature. We're talking 104 degrees or higher. Hot, dry skin. Absence of sweat in 50 to 75% of the victims. So if you're working outdoors, hot temperatures, you've been sweating, and all of it probably won't be all of a sudden, but at any point you realize my skin's dry, that's, time out. We've got problems. Increased heart rate, dizziness, shivering. Again, big clue there. Hot outside and you're shivering or possibly starting to convulse. Mental confusion, and then loss of consciousness or you pass out. So at that point, coworkers, peers that may be around, we want to start efforts to get that person treatment and cool down. So first sign of heat stroke, someone loses consciousness, we're calling 911 immediately, going to move them, follow progressive first aid, move them to a cool area. Let's loosen, remove outer clothing, wet the worker down, cool water, ice packs, and then provide water to start replenishing and stay with that individual until the professionals arrive. So heat stroke is going to be our worst case scenario that we're really trying to avoid because it's where the fatality can occur. Now we've got some lesser things, less dire, that we want to pay attention to. So from there we progress down to heat exhaustion, kind of what it sounds like. This is going to occur when we're losing more water in sweat than we're bringing in or that we're intaking during that high work area or high work period of time. Person with heat exhaustion is going to have some of the similar signs: heavy sweating, clammy, flushed skin, maybe pale, but again, it's still damp, it's still wet. Weakness, dizzy, nausea, vomiting can occur, and the worker could faint. If that happens, especially if it's fainting or vomiting, it's recommended to go ahead and call a doctor. Treatment's going to be a lot similar. Move them to a cool area, find some shade, start pushing fluids, remove clothing, anything we can do to cool the worker down that's experiencing that illness or that heat stress event. So even a little bit less serious than the heat exhaustion is going to be heat cramps, just what it sounds like: muscle spasms, cramps, legs, arms, or abdomen. Personally, I have this a lot of times. It seems like after the work's done. It can appear during the shift or your work day, but it will occur after work as well. So what do we do here for these as far as treatment goes? Apply pressure, massage the affected muscle or area. Again, get some rest, go to a cool shaded area. And there you want to start pushing not just water, but you may need clear juices, electrolytes, sports drinks, something to replenish that water or electrolyte, from not water, but salt or electrolyte deficiency that's causing that. Lastly is going to be heat rash. Again, on a personal note, I've found the older I get, the tops of my hands I'll just get these red bumps. Common, occurs hot, humid conditions. Now, it's not limited to one specific area. It can go over the entire torso. Sweat production may or may not return to those areas. It may take 4 to 6 weeks for that to occur, for those areas to start sweating again. But again, one way to eliminate that or avoid it, it's going to try to reduce your exposure. A lot of times we know farmers are going to be out in it. So if you do have that heat rash that comes up, main thing we want to guard against there is prevent those areas from getting infected. So keep them clean. Try to keep them dry for at least 12 hours. Use some sort of topical antimicrobial ointment to try to prevent that infection. And then, Ty, since we are sitting here in the Buckeye State, I'd be remiss not to mention the name Corey Stringer. I'm a big Ohio State football fan. He's a former All-American at OSU, first-round draft pick to the Minnesota Vikings. Back in August of 2011, Corey Stringer died of heat stroke. So what I'm trying to convey to the listeners today is, if an NFL athlete can fall victim to heat stroke, we got employees who aren't nearly as physically fit as a pro athlete. They're going to be just as susceptible to this hazard, if not more so.
Being proactive certainly will have its benefits here. What are some of the precautions that farmers and ag workers can take to help prevent the onset of these heat-related illnesses that we're talking about here today?
3 simple words, if we can keep these in mind: water, rest, and shade. Water, rest, and shade. Heat stress, it's important to keep in mind as we're outdoors. We're at June now. It's going to start getting warmer and warmer. If you're working out in the fields, if it's full sun at 90 degrees, odds are, if that's what the weather forecast is or National Weather Service is saying, it's probably hotter than that out there. So if we provide adequate water, simply providing adequate water, cool water to staff or to ourselves, that's going to go a long way. How much water? Here's some things to remember. To replace that amount the water that we lose in sweat, anywhere from a half a cup to a full cup of water every 20 minutes of the workday. What's that equate to? Somewhere around a quart of water per hour. Now, we don't want to overdo it. If you go a quart and a half or more per hour, you can cause a medical emergency where the concentration of salt in one's bloodstream becomes too low. So somewhere around a quart every hour. And then two things that a lot of people don't realize or may not be aware of. You want to start hydrating before the physical activity begins, and then continue to hydrate even after you've stopped working. Chronic dehydration sets in, you're going to have medical issues such as kidney stones. Other thing that's sometimes commonplace or often heard, we want to avoid energy drinks and alcohol. Caffeine in the energy drink can affect your heart. Add that in with the strain from the heat, and you're leading to higher risk of other medical issues. And then alcohol, it's simply, it's going to dehydrate the body. And then the other thing to keep in mind with that I have a lot of other employers ask me outside of the ag sector, drinking water most of the time is fine, does not have to be sports drinks. If an employee's consuming regular meals and with adequate water intake, that's going to maintain a good enough electrolyte balance in the body. But if you've got really hot conditions and they're prolonged sweating for several hours, nothing wrong with going ahead and incorporating the sports drinks into that. So that's a long-winded way on the water. So I said water, rest, and shade. CDC, they have some work rest schedules out there to give guidance to farmers and employers on, do I need to work 45 minutes and then rest 15 for every hour? That may be the case, but you have other factors to consider, such as, are we in full sun or are we in the shade? What's the humidity level? So again, it may be one thing, but on an average day, you can be 10 degrees hotter in the field than what the Weather Service is reporting. So best practice when it comes to rest, employers don't always like this, but providing training and safe conditions for employees, that's going to maintain good productivity and quality of work. Agribusiness is no different than general industry or construction. So keeping our employees and workers healthy, it's going to go a long way to increase production rather than hinder it. And lastly, with shade, work, rest, shade. A lot of times in the field, unless you get to an edge of a field, and sometimes there is no edges, there is no shade. So having an enclosed cap, be it the vehicle of a car or a truck, a farm tractor with air conditioning, someplace where they can cool off when they get a break, and just keep plenty of water available to keep them hydrated. But shade, people, if you've been there, you know it, but somewhere around 10 to 15 degrees, it can lower the real field temperature. So it becomes very imperative. So preventatively, water, rest, and shade.
Shane, how would you recommend going about evaluating the risk of heat stress?
There's a couple different options. Temperature's not the only factor that we want to pay attention to when we are evaluating that. We also got to factor in humidity, the heat index. That's going to take into measure how hot it feels when relative humidity is factored in with the actual air temperature. Easiest way, simply listen to the weather forecast. They're going to give you the heat advisories. As farmers, we're always watching and listening to the weather anyway. So it's going to tell you when is that risk most severe. Now, technologically, there's an app out there. NIOSH and OSHA have a heat app for iPhone and Android users, but I'm guessing for most of today's listeners, Weatherman's going to be the best source.
How about suggestions that you might have for enhancing heat tolerance or even preventing heat stress in farmers and their workers?
Couple different options there. Acclimatization to the heat, that's adapting to it. May not always be the most practical just in the real world due to some limitations in workers, human resources, etc. But if we're acclimatizing that first day, if you've got a new hire that's not familiar with working in the heat, if the first couple days, only a third of that work day, they're doing that hard manual labor. Then the days 3 and 4 slightly increases, okay, half a day until 2/3 of the day in the 5th and the 6th day of that first week. If that's not available or an option for you, maybe it's simply just letting them run the equipment or machinery the first couple days and rotate out of some of that heavy manual labor to kind of quote unquote ease into it. But most importantly, especially for those new hires and anyone really, not just new hires or new employees maybe getting into the mix, but know your limits and listen to your body. A coworker of mine shared that with me from a firsthand experience he had. Some of us tolerate heat much better than others. So if your body's talking to you, listening to it. So that's the acclimatization piece, limiting the exposure time. This isn't going to be rocket science here, Ty. It's, physical activities. If we can do those in the coolest part of the day and it doesn't matter what we're doing. So if we're harvesting fruits and vegetables and we can do that early in the morning or later in the afternoon once the sun goes down, have at it and take advantage of that. But if we're baling hay or straw, it's probably not going to be practical, and it's going to need to be done at the hotter time of the day, and then we'll follow the other precautions that I've talked about. Again, taking breaks, regular, routine, and frequent breaks in a cool environment. Again, some people, old school mentality, may think we're losing production. We got to stay at it. If you maintain, let your body rest on a consistent interval, production is going to stay the same. And most importantly, we're going to avoid those serious injuries. Type of clothing the employees wearing or the farmers wearing. Loose fitting clothing. Less is usually better in the hot environment. But if it gets super hot out, 95 degrees or more, standing next to a radiant heat source, maybe they're inside a grain bin or something, and for whatever reason, sweeping it out on a hot day, then you want to keep some barrier over your skin. And lastly, if available, a buddy system. Having a fellow worker there that knows you, that's watching. As we get hotter, what I talked about early on with heat stroke, the confusion, the clumsiness, loss of coordination. If you've got a peer, a friend there, coworker watching you, to keep an eye on you. So those are just some ways and some things farmers can do. So.
Shane Muzet is with the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, their field safety services as an industrial hygienist. Shane, before I let you go, final thoughts about this very important topic.
Hey, water, rest, shade, hydrate early and often. Don't wait till you feel thirsty to think you need to start consuming water, and then listen to your body. Just if your body's telling you, don't ignore it. Find some shade, take a break, push fluids. We're thankful here at BWC for Ohio's farmers. We hope this summer is a safe and productive one. If you guys need anything, BWC is here to help for you. You can request consultation online at our website, bwc.ohio.gov, or you can call our 800 number at 644-6292.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Find previous podcasts at ohiofarmbureau.org and search podcast.